Are we on?
Are we on?
We're on. Go for it.
Yeah,
Tell us about New Zealand.
a Christmas summer for us in New Zealand. So
That Santa arrives by canoe, right?
yeah,
that-
by canoe. With,
I grew up on
you
the
know,
island, so I am aware of what islanders do with Santa.
waterproof sacks. and,
Yeah.
you know.
Waterproof sacks. Just want to make sure that everyone caught that. But now, tell me about the Naked and Famous. I think diehard fans, you guys have had, 3 sold-out shows already here in Dallas. So your diehard fans know that the name is not a joke. It actually came from a Tricky song. But I think that what's amazing to me, didn't this thing come full circle? Because he joined a gang in New Zealand.
This is a new one. I haven't heard about this yet.
With,
Something mob, there's some sort
yeah.
of strange mob there that he joined to get on the inside to try and stop gang violence?
What mob was it? It was the.
I don't actually know too much about the story, but the only mob I know of in New Zealand is the mongrel mob.
That's the mongrel mob.
Mongrel
Yes,
mob?
That,
There we
that
go.
was it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we read about that in some headlines, but we just thought, what's he doing?
I just thought it was interesting that here's this band that from New Zealand that would name themselves after a line from a Tricky song, and then he comes to New Zealand to join a gang and turn things around. I thought it just seemed amazing, and I wondered if you guys had heard the story about that.
Yeah, we heard it.
Now, tell me about how you guys formed, because from what I've read, I read an interview with Tom that he was following you to a bus, and you got on something else, and he ended up next to, and I'm quoting here, I'm so sorry, I ended up next to an idiot.
Named
Yeah.
Aaron.
That's
Yeah,
Aaron.
that is-
Here I am, yes.
That is 100%
But you guys knew each
true.
other, so I got the impression that idiot was being used as a term of endearment.
I hope so.
Okay. Well, he said you shared a kiss, and then you decided to start writing songs, so.
Well, pretty much. Yeah, it was the 3 of us that kind of started off originally. Tom and Lisa were with songwriters. I wasn't too involved in that part of it. It was more kind of the production, behind-the-scenes geek. And then beginning of 2009 is when we met David and Jessie, our bassist and drummer as well. And that's kind of when we started making the album, Passive Me, Aggressive You, which
And-
we're now touring till we die.
Well, tell me about the polarities, because Passive Me, Aggressive You is kind of indicative of the different things that you're kind of going for on the record. You have extremes like the cover. You have the digital blended with the organic. Were you going for that with the music as well?
It wasn't really something that we had preconceived when we started writing the album. It was more of an afterthought. And when we were all just thinking about what to name the record, Tom was just writing down the things, and he saw Passive Me, Aggressive You. That lyric is out of all of this, which is the opening track, and that lyric's always been such a strong one that everyone has kind of always loved. And he thought, that's great. It's polarities on the male and female dynamic, the musical dynamics, the lyrical contrast between the music and the lyrics, and so he started thinking up this theme, and he went to our visual team and said, hey guys, I finally got a concept idea of the album title, and the visual team were already working on the idea, so it was just this crazy, unspoken theme that just happened naturally.
Tell me about your visual team, because in a couple of interviews that I've read with you guys, they're a little bit crazy, and they like to do things like shave Tom's arm. I think you've gotten dunked a couple
They
of times.
always make me.
What are their names?
Yeah.
Something Problems?
Special problems.
Special Problems.
They made her lie down in a tiny dress in the snow, on the snow at one point. That was probably the most extreme we've gone with them so far.
The
I think.
bath that I'm lying down and punching in a dream is cold water. And they made me walk into the sea. It was freezing, but I love working with
Do
them.
they
It's so
sit in
fun.
meetings plotting how can we torture them today?
There's a lot of trust between us. We really don't have too much involvement in their creative side of when they're creating the visual interpretation of what the song is. We just we put a lot of trust in them, and a few weeks later we get something back that generally blows our minds. Well, it has every time so far.
Now, the song that we originally started playing from you guys was Young Blood, and I read somewhere that was inspired by a late-night viewing of that raunchy British TV show called Skins.
Oh, no. It wasn't inspired by that. I was trying to, when I used that reference, I was just trying to explain the kind of themes that are in the song, just so that people could relate to it. But yeah,
I've taken it to the outer limits. This is about skins, dirty teens.
We were quite hooked on those first few seasons, though, I have to say.
But I was just
The
trying
UK
to,
version.
Yeah,
trying
the
to
UK version is like, should I be watching this? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No, it's cool.
Well, the song went #1 in New Zealand, and it was the first time in a couple of years that a New Zealand artist had been #1 on the New Zealand charts. What is the music scene like in New Zealand? Because I think Tom had said in an interview, it sucks.
Really?
Does the music
Is that-
scene? I don't
No,
know. I
there's-
mean,
there's some amazing New Zealand acts there. I mean, obviously, with the population of the country, it's 4.5 million. There's not as much music coming out as what you would see from the States or the UK or anything like that. But New Zealand has some like amazing music that comes out, and New Zealand it's really supportive of its own music as well. So our charts and stuff are generally always a mix of kind of what's going on in the UK, the US, and our home scene as well.
I read somewhere that was Punching in the Dream, was that the most difficult album, or it was a difficult song to record? It was kind of
Yes.
a beating to get finished?
It went through many. That song was written kind of
It's like
at
2
the end of
years old.
2008, beginning in 2009, and it went through so many different forms. And Tom and I were just trying to find the right key, and we recorded the vocals in a different studio. And it was just a really great challenge because I had never really explored that range of my vocals before, and I was having a bit of difficulty, but now I nailed it. So.
And how do you protect your vocals? Because when I listen to you sing, it's one thing to be on a record, but then when you're coming out and you're performing like 6-7 days a week, how do you protect it? Do you have any tips for any vocalists that might be listening?
Oh, I guess it's just common sense. I'm just really sensible. If I know that we have to play 4 shows in a row every night, then I just go to bed early and drink lots of hot tea. And I don't really go out that much to bars because when you go out to bars, it requires lots of screaming over the top of music
Right.
to speak to people. So I'm just really sensible and just take care of myself. And
What now? I read somewhere that there was a song that didn't make the record, but I was dying to ask you about it because I heard it might be germinating in a drawer somewhere.
Oh,
Were
yeah.
you reading a comic book about a girl who's bullied? Something I Killed Giants?
Yeah. There's a comic book called I Killed Giants, which is written by Joe Kelly, and I wrote that song from the perspective of a 7-year-old girl losing a parent because that's a very personal experience, and that's something happened to me. So yeah, it's a really great song, but it never quite made it. But
Is it called I Killed Giants?
I think we're going to call it I Killed Giants, but don't maybe.
Oh, no worries.
Could be different.
That's
later
open
on.
to change.
I think it's going to re-emerge at some point.
Oh, great. Awesome. So you guys have already finished your set here tonight. What's next for Naked and Famous?
We we're right in the middle of this crazy kind of Christmas December run where we're just zooming all across the states doing different Christmas
Do
shows.
you get to go
here and
home for
there.
the holidays?
Yeah, we're going to head home for just over a week, I think,
Yeah.
for Christmas, and then straight off to some New Year's Eve festivals in Australia where we'll be enjoying hot summer heat and leaving this cold that's here at the moment.
Yeah.
And then we carry on from that to a Southeast Asia tour, and then and that takes us up to March when we're back here again for another full headline tour for the month in March.
Well, congratulations. You guys
Thank
are
you.
taking over the world, and it was really a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much.
too.
Thanks so much.